Teachers, too, began to catch wind of the rumors. It was a surreal experience, as if I were living in a parallel reality where my true self was overshadowed by the malicious story spun by my own twin. The lies had grown beyond mere teenage gossip. They were now shaping how people truly perceive me. The nasty rumor quickly reached my principal's ears, and then my worst nightmare came true. The principal immediately called me and my sister into his room, as well as our parents, so we could discuss these alleged rumors. I sat there, heart pounding, as the principal demanded the truth. I hoped my sister would finally come clean, but instead, she doubled down on the lies. She straight up told the principal that, yeah, the rumors were true, and painted me as this bully who went around beating her up when our parents weren't around. I couldn't believe it. Shock washed over me as my sister continued spinning this twisted story about how I was angry at her for getting more love from our parents. It was all a bunch of lies, but she stuck to her story like glue. My mom began to cry hearing my sister's story, holding on to my sister like she was some kind of hero. My dad tried to comfort my sister, telling her that it was brave for her to speak up and that he was going to make sure that nothing would ever happen to her after that day. I tried to defend myself, pleading with the principal that it was all made up. I felt like I was drowning in a sea of accusations, desperately trying to swim to the surface. But my sister kept at it, insisting that I was this angry, violent person taking out my frustrations on her every day. My mom's tears kept coming as she held onto my sister, giving me accusing looks. It was like fighting against a wall of belief in my sister's made-up story. My principal reprimanded me strongly, saying the school didn't tolerate bullying and these were grounds to suspend me. I pleaded with him not to suspend me, but he shook his head, saying he couldn't just let it slide. I begged him, tears streaming down my face, trying to tell him that I didn't do anything to my sister. The principal firmly told me that I would be suspended for 10 days so that others see this as an example to never bully anyone. It hit me hard, and I started crying even more, practically begging him to reconsider. My parents, angry and embarrassed by the whole situation, dragged me out of the principal's office. I didn't want to leave. I wanted to plead my case and make them understand, but they were having none of it. We left the school, my heart heavy with frustration and humiliation. When we got home, things took a drastic turn. My dad started packing up my stuff out of the blue. I was shocked, confused, and had no idea what was happening. My mom asked him what he was doing, but he just shouted that he couldn't let me live in the same house as my sister anymore. I was crying, practically on my knees, and pleaded with my sister to tell them the truth, but she stayed cold, unmoved by my emotions. My dad continued packing my things and then threw the suitcase into our foyer. I clung to my dad's legs, still begging him not to throw me out. It was like a nightmare unfolding. He told me that a bully like me didn't deserve to live in his house and that he would ask his father, my grandfather, to come and pick me up if he wanted to do that. It felt like the world had crumbled beneath me. I stood there in shock, surrounded by my belongings scattered in the foyer, kicked out of my own home. Eventually, my grandfather did show up. He gathered all my things and helped me place them in the car, helping me into the passenger seat. He made sure I had my seat belt on before walking towards my parents' front door. He rang the doorbell, and when my dad opened the door, he started to yell at him for treating me this way. With stern determination, he warned him that if he ever approached me or tried to contact me again, he wouldn't hesitate to involve the police or the CPS, since what he had done to a child like me could potentially wind up with him in jail. My mother, attempting to deflect blame, told him that it was my fault. However, my grandfather wasn't having any of it. He stood his ground, defending me, emphasizing that I was just a child who didn't deserve to be treated in such a heartless manner. That was the first time in my life I felt how powerful my grandfather was. He didn't back down to my parents, and unlike what they believed, he trusted me.
Now you can watch the third part by pressing share and more.